Hello and welcome to episode 289 of Fergo and the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. Join me as always is the glorious League Freak. You can also find on Twitter at League Freak. How you going there, mate?
Going very well, Andrew. How are you?
Yeah, I can't complain. I can't complain. You know why I can't complain?
Why?
Because I don't have any hair downstairs.
Yeah, because hair downstairs it's a problem in 2021. And luckily we have the solution to that problem. And the solution is manscaped.com. If you go to manscaped.com and you put in our exclusive code, which is NRL, you get 20% off and free shipping of every single last product that they have on their website. We always recommend the Lawnmower 3.0. It is a fantastic device which will keep your downstairs hair free. And that's all you really want in this crazy age of pandemics and everything. You just want people to be able to, take your pants off and say, you know what, this person's really well groomed down there. And that's what Manscaped provides. So if you go to manscaped.com, put in the code NRL, 20% off, free shipping, you get a 30-day money-back guarantee. I don't know what more you could want out of your life and out of the 2021 year that is.
Maybe an actual cord on the lawnmower.
Well,
you just pull on the cord 15 times before it starts.
But here's the thing: they're so beyond cords; they're cordless.
I know.
They got a lithium-ion battery that has an induction plate that allows it to you put it in the dock and it just charges itself. It's fantastic. It's the future.
We were like a bit of retro stuff. We see retro haircuts coming back with mullets and whatnot.
Yeah,
just get the old fucking pull on there. I bet the cord. The pull cord was on the Lawnmower 1.0.
But you know what? We don't see bushes because that wasn't a good look.
Wow, that's gone back too far.
Yeah, that's too far. Way too far. So
yeah,
get that in here.
Let's get into the current day.
Yes.
The grand final rematch happened tonight. Penrith versus Melbourne. Apparently, according to some people on Twitter, this is one of the greatest games of all time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good. It was pretty good. Both teams really played well. Both teams played really tough. And there was one point there at the 60th minute where the Storm looked out on their feet. And it was one of those very Storm moments. It's like they looked stuffed, but you knew that they were going to just power on. And, of course, they did. It was... The Storm showed what a great club they were in this game, and the Panthers really had to get up to that level. But I think that there were things that the Panthers really badly need to improve on, and we can talk about that in this podcast.
Absolutely. There was some... it was I don't know. I think I'd be more disappointed if I was Melbourne, given that Penrith were without, obviously, their chief playmaker.
Mm-hmm.
And ended up losing a few players during the match as well.
Yep.
And yet they couldn't close the game out when they had an opportunity to.
Yeah.
That decision right on full time. Olam chose not to pass to Addo-Carr, who looked like he would have scored if he had got the ball there. But the Panthers, as I've said many times already now, their willingness to defend together, like for the full 80 minutes, was there again in this match, and it was there with 1 second left to go. Like Kickout had been knocked on his ass on the other side of the field. He got up while the play was still going on and sprinted all the way across in back play to get across there to help make the try-saving tackle in the end to give Penrith the win. Just phenomenal stuff, and that's just what all of them do.
Yeah, and like they're relentless, and it's 80 full minutes, and like we talked about where they rate amongst the best defensive teams we've ever seen. And I was saying that I put them pretty close to that Manly team. I think if they keep defending like this for the rest of the year, I'd put them ahead of that Manly team, just for the fact that that Manly side, it would eventually, you could break it. And the 97 grand final was a great example of that. This Panthers side, they don't really break. It's really strange. Like, they, in the last 20 minutes of a match, they look fresh.
Yeah, they really do. Yeah, I think it's purely because they do keep turning up in pairs for tackles and stuff like that. So they're
Yeah.
helping spread the workload around, so everyone's staying reasonably fresh from start to finish. It's obvious, intelligent, but it's also something that's not easy to do for a full 80 minutes. But they manage to do it, and that's why defensively they are so rock solid.
Yeah, it's very rarely you see a Panthers player have to make a one-on-one tackle. And it really is incredible to see them. They're like this defensive machine, and it makes you wonder, is it something you can work on? Because it's not like they've been together for 6 or 7 years, or is it something that you just get the right mix of players who buy into your system? Or is it just a little bit of everything? Is it the right players? Is it, they've played a lot of junior football together, and, you get in right veterans who just defend well. And, the thing that still gets me about their forwards are always just playing top notch for the full 80 minutes. And you saw in this game, there was a number of times there where the Storm just looked busted. And because it's the Storm, they kept playing. But most other clubs, they're going to get to that point and Penrith are going to break their will. And it takes a team like the Storm to not do that. But the Panthers do have a few problems. I felt like Luai was very good in the first, say, 20 minutes, but then disappeared after that, like just was nowhere to be seen. And he was the senior playmaker in the game. So that for the last, more than half a footy, it was up to Burton to basically run their attack. And he did all right. Like, he did make a few mistakes, but you did expect that. But Luai, I still have question marks around him. I still don't think, I don't think he's doing what Penrith needs him to do. And then the way they use kick-out is still bad. Still really, really bad. And
yeah, I was going to say, Burton, that try that was disallowed at I think to Brian 2-0 in the 9th minute or so, that cutout ball by Burton was fucking sweet.
Yeah, he's a great player.
The thing is that made that work is the fact that Kikau wasn't clearly running as a decoy runner, because that ball went flat just in front of him and he let it go.
Yeah.
And it drew the defender up who took on Kikau, because you don't let Kikau go unmarked.
No.
But Tuo just got his foot on the sideline as he was going over, and it was disallowed. But that ball was unbelievable.
It really was, and the whole game, it was worthy of a grand final rematch. And I know everyone was excited going into the game, even though Cleary was out and Pappenhausen was out. But man, it really lived up to the hype, and the way that it finished was extraordinary. For Kikau to be, laid out in what I thought he was taken out. I thought you could have had a penalty when he was taken out. And that was the second time the Storm had done that. They had a try disallowed. I think it might have been early in the first half, where Edwards was coming across in fullback, and he was just taken out by a decoy runner who ran right through the line and took out Edwards at fullback, which was kind of amazing to see. But so the Storm have to work on that. But yeah, if Kikau to be flat out and then get up and get his arm under that ball as Olam was putting it down, it was a crazy finish to the game.
Certainly was. At the start of the game, it looked like I didn't get to see much of this game. I've only seen a few highlights, but it looked like Brandon Smith was having an absolute ripper of a game in the first half.
Yeah, he was. He was his old self, just bulldozing players, and he played really well out the dummy half. We've got to remember that Harry Grant's not in this Storm side at the moment too, which is kind of crazy.
That will change their attack a fair bit, because Brandon Smith is not so much a playmaker.
No.
Especially not one compared to Harry Grant. So that will change them and improve them a bit, I'd imagine, in attack. But that try that he scored, the first try of the game, he literally went in head first into Kenny, and his neck alone knocked Kenny over. Just most people bulldoze using their, their back or their shoulder, like they put their head all the way down and they charge with that back part of their neck.
Yeah.
He just headbutted head first into Kenny's gut, and Kenny just couldn't stop him. He went, I can't grab hold of him.
He got picked up a bit of an injury late in the game too. I think it was like a bit of a rib injury or something. He was struggling on his haunches for a little bit, trying to get his wind back.
Probably still stuffed after he got headbutted in the gut in the 9th minute.
But yeah, he played really well. Like most of the players on the team played really well. Edwards played really well for the Panthers until he broke his hand, so that'll be a bit of a loss for the Panthers. It's going to be interesting to see who they get in at fullback. I saw Stu on my timeline was saying that he would love to see Crichton back there.
I was about to say that. I'd love to see Crichton have a crack at fullback.
Yeah, it feels like he'd be really good at fullback.
Especially I just think I'd love to see him on a kick return.
Yeah.
Because he plays at centre, we don't see it, but I'd just love to see him on a kick return, striding out with that speed and that power. Oh.
Tell you what, talking about speed, Charlie Staines was really good defensively in this game. Could put on a couple of pretty good hits on players, which is weird because he's not the biggest dude in the world. The Storm kept on kicking over to O's wing, and he did really well. He diffused most of the bombs that went over to him. And yeah, it was just a real slog, this game. I was hoping that the Panthers would play the Eels next week, because I think if they played the Eels, we'd be able to line up the Panthers pretty well with everyone by that stage. But they don't play the Eels until like round 16.
Okay. Are they not travelling anywhere again and getting the rub of the green from the NRL?
Oh, well, they're getting the rub of the green.
They're the darlings?
The darlings. Like Peter V'landys wants them to win, and that's the only reason they're winning. Referees are on their side. You know what? They even stopped the game from having any rain just for today, because
just to suit Penrith.
Yeah, because it helps Penrith when it's not raining. So yeah, there was a lot of that going on.
Must be good to be one of the chosen ones.
It feels really nice, and like to have been one of the chosen clubs since we entered the competition. Really, we're just used to it.
Well, I mean, that's a given, isn't it? That's the thing. I mean, you weren't given a free ride entirely for your existence at the club there. You know, the NRL did force you to lose quite a few seasons before they let you have some wins.
Yeah, but they did it with like a wink and a nod. Like, you're going to be a crap team for 95% of your history, but
we'll make it up to you.
Yeah, you'll have 5 good seasons in there.
Yeah, you'll be sweet. Don't worry. We're going to look after you. We just don't want it to look too obvious.
Yeah. It's a false sense of security for everyone else.
Yeah, that's right. Now, I was going to give you a random stat.
Yeah.
Because this game was played out at Penrith, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Penrith have kept their undefeated record at home intact tonight when it comes to playing at home on the 84th day of the year.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
How many games have we won in a row on the 84th day of the year?
Including today? 2.
There you go, 100%.
That's at home. When they're away, they've lost every game.
Every single game?
Every single game. All single of them.
All single of them. Well, that's part of the league, sorting things out for us too.
That's right.
We put in the request, 84th day we need to play at home, and they said, you got it.
It's been a while since you last played on the 84th day.
When was the last time?
1979.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Lost to the Bulldogs 25-14 at Belmore. The first one was 1973, where you beat the Roosters 20-9 at Penrith.
Oh, we beat the Roosters when it matters.
That's right. So it's big day for Penrith. Kept that record intact. That's the main thing.
We've won a lot of games in a row at home. Like, it's got to be. I know it's a record already. I'm trying to think of what it must be. It must be like I think I was there for 11 in a row at home. It's got to be like 13, 14 in a row, surely.
It'll be up there. Let's have a quick look. They've won 10 in a row, but
Okay.
if you include the draw, if you include the draw that was at Campbelltown, which was classified as a home game last year,
Oh, yeah.
then they've been undefeated for 14 games on home turf now.
Home turf, wow. That's pretty crazy.
So their last loss on home soil was against Canberra in round 19, 2019.
Whoa, that's insane. Holy shit. That's insane. Wow.
Only had one loss at home since round 12, 2019.
Wow.
That was that game.
That's insane. So from this game, Burton, obviously, the Bulldogs are pissed and moaning because he's not on their team. I don't really care. He played pretty well, and he showed his quality. It was weird. Channel 9 were really pumping him up. I'm not really sure why, but he played solid footy. There's talk that Brandon Smith is willing to buy out his contract to possibly go to the Bulldogs as well. And he had a bit of a laugh about that apparently today. So, there was a little bit for the Bulldogs fans to watch in this game, which was interesting, and a little bit of an extra thing sort of floating around the contest, seeing two players that probably won't be at the clubs they're at next year. So that was interesting.
Throw in Addo Carr's already signed with the Bulldogs for next year as well too.
Yeah, their junior development's going really well there at the Bulldogs, hey?
It really is though. They're back to their old tricks, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't mind if the Tigers went after Brandon Smith.
Well, the Tigers are going after someone else.
Yeah, who are they going after?
Jackson Hastings of the Wigan Warriors.
Excuse me a sec. Fuck. Look, I'm going to say this, right now.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not a commentary on Jackson Hastings by any means.
Yeah.
But what the Tigers need is a leader at halfback who can direct the team around the field. Jackson Hastings is a 5'8", so he can't fill that role. He's not a leader either. He's not a captain anywhere. He hasn't been around for a while. He doesn't have a lot of experience. That's what the Tigers desperately need. And they had it last year with Benji Marshall and they threw it away. Fuck knows why. So now we're just going to get ourselves another 5'8". We'll have Moses and Bai, Adam Dewey. Luke Brooks is basically a 5'8". That's all going to be at the club now. And don't forget, Dane Laurie's played a fair bit of 5'8", so he could probably go there as well, And they've got a young guy who's going to come through at halfbacks probably in the next year or two. Why are they chasing Jackson Hastings?
Well, it's an interesting one. I mean, it feels like Jackson, I don't know, I think Jackson Hastings is onto a pretty good thing in Super League. And I'm very big on, if you're in a good situation, stick with it, And I think the best example of that ever was Brett Camorley at the Melbourne Storm. He was in a great situation and he left and things just never really worked out for him after that. I'm not saying he didn't play well or wasn't in good teams, but it definitely wasn't the Storm situation for him. And Jackson Hastings is doing very well over in Super League, and I feel like it wouldn't be good for him to come into a team like the Tigers. And I also feel like it would put him under a lot of pressure to fix things. And I don't think it's a one-player fix things situation there. I think they'd be asking too much of him. And then you've got the thing of he's under contract with Wigan. How do you sort that out?
Well, a few pies.
Send some pies over, a bit of gravy.
Lots of gravy.
Heaps of it. Heaps of gravy.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That would be a drama. But it's a nuts concept. I think the other thing too is I do wonder if bringing in Jackson Hastings is designed to force Brooks to either lift his standard or piss off. And I've got an inkling, based on nothing, that the Cowboys might look at Luke Brooks.
Well, like the Cowboys, look, if the Cowboys were going after Jackson Hastings, I'd say, yeah, get him. Because the Cowboys have nothing right now.
Mm.
And Luke Brooks would be a massive upgrade from what they've got right now. I think that if I was the Cowboys, I'd go after Adam Reynolds as well. I feel like Adam Reynolds should be one of those players that a lot of clubs are going after, and I'm surprised that they're not.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Tigers go after him. And I wouldn't be surprised, given that Joey Laulua was dropped this week, wouldn't be surprised if the Tigers are looking at trying to find a way to get Laulua off the books, because he wouldn't be on small coin. Because if they can move on Laulua and Packer this year, that's going to free up over $1 million.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to get a halfback of Adam Reynolds, standing. And then if they can, I don't know, if Moses and Bai can move on within the next 12 months, they could probably go after Brandon Smith. I mean, that would be a perfect situation. Then you end up with an almost decent spine.
Yeah.
You could either put Brooks or Dewey at 5'8". It would be perfectly fine if you've got someone like Reynolds at halfback.
Would you give Adam Reynolds $1 million if you're the Tigers? I mean,
I think if you're the Tigers, you've got no option.
I agree, and like we talked about it with the Latrell Mitchell. I think at some point you've got to open the purse strings if you're the Tigers and say, look, we're going to attract a big name, and the hope is that you attract other big names on top of that. You look at someone like the Roosters. It's easy for the Roosters to recruit when they can say, we've got James Tedesco in our side, dude. Join James Tedesco's team.
That's right. And we make grand finals.
Yeah.
A lot of people seem to think that players are only driven by money. And you do not play sport at the level these guys do, with the intensity they do, only because of money. You do it because you want to win. You want to be the best. And so that's what a lot of these guys want. So sometimes you will find, we saw it with the Broncos an awful lot during the 90s. You will stick somewhere on less pay just because you know you're going to keep winning all the time.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
That's what fucking Andrew G said.
That's right. And who would argue with him? He was there.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I think in an ideal world, Adam Reynolds is probably worth no more than $800,000. I dare say the Tigers will probably have to pay 1.1 for him or something like that.
Yeah. The only thing that worries me about if they get rid of Joey Laulua is if they make him available. I feel like the Tigers would be like, oh wow, Joey Laulua's available. Oh wait, that's because of us.
Not only would they sign him to a 3-year deal, they'd even pay him more than what he's currently on. They go, oh, sorry, Adam, we can't sign you, mate. We'll pick someone else up instead.
I think Adam Reynolds, he'd be worth it. If I'm Adam Reynolds, there's talk that he'll only get a 1-year deal. Oh. What if you're Adam Reynolds, right? And you're thinking to yourself, I only want a 1-year deal, because after that 1 year, it's going to be another team in Brisbane that is going to have $10 million to spend, and I will be a premiership winning halfback that will be available.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if I was the Tigers and he was interested, I'd offer him a 2-year deal with a 3rd year in the club's favour. Mm-hmm. So if the club wants to keep him on for the 3rd year, they've got the right of way there, I guess. Yeah. Too many of the Tigers deals are a 2-year deal with the 3rd year in the player's favour, because then the player always takes it up. Yeah. So that's probably the way I'd look at it. That way, it says to Adam that, we're confident that you're going to be good for 2 years, and if you are, we want to have you on for a 3rd year. Yeah. And by that stage, you're looking at signing up for the end of his career. Yeah. I think he's 30. Yeah. Around 30 at the moment, so you're likely to get three good years out of him.
Yeah, he doesn't look like he's He physically looks fine. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't look like he's lost anything. And like we saw with Jonathan Thurston, sometimes with playmakers it just turns off. Like we're seeing it with Michael Morgan. It's
Yeah.
over, and it just was like someone flicked a switch.
Well, with Thurston, I think it was that 1 year he had where they made the grand final, but he missed almost the entire season through injury. That was kind of the moment, I think, where things started to go south for him.
Yeah, and like we talked about it a little bit. I think it was when we were talking about Cameron Smith not having the off season. Like at some point you get old enough where time off of football and the conditioning you lose, you can't get it back. Doesn't matter what you do, you're not getting it back. So yeah, that year off for Thurston, he was never really the same after that. But then, like, I mean, I guess you could say a little bit the same thing with Michael Morgan. He did have a lot of time off of football. And yeah, some players, it just goes overnight. It's really strange when you see that happen. But then you see someone like a Benji Marshall, who he's still going and he still looks great, and he just doesn't miss a beat.
Yeah. Arguably completely modified his game and made himself, arguably better in a lot of areas where he always struggled.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that the true greats can do. Like Brad Fittler did it a lot towards the end of his career.
Yeah.
Andrew John struggled to do it because he was a really tough, robust hooker, and he always wanted to stay that, and he really kind of needed to take himself out of that and be a playmaker. I tell you, another one that was good at it was Alan Langer.
Yeah, and for Alf was a bit harder too, given he was so small.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Tuvey was another one.
Yes, he was.
And he transitioned from a small halfback to a goddamn hooker.
Yeah,
and he was the same size as Langer. Probably a little bit more stocky, but not by much. I mean, they're both small men.
I know I'm a big unit, but when I was a teenager, I was shocked that I went to a Panthers game, Panthers versus Seagulls game. I was bigger than Jeff Tuvey. I was like, holy shit. I've seen this guy fucking smash Shane Webke and players like that.
And how tough was he?
Incredible. And the thing about Tuvey was that he was a small player, but you never thought, okay, you've got this small player on the side, because he hit players like he was the same size as everyone else. Like his lack of size never stopped him from doing anything on a footy field.
That's right, and that's the thing. A lot of people wax lyrical about Andrew Johns and his defence, but Johns was 90 kilos for the majority of his career.
Yeah, he was huge.
Tuvey would have been, 80 at his absolute heaviest.
And he used to smash players.
Yeah, his defensive technique was sound as hell.
Yeah.
Sound as hell. So, yeah, pretty interesting concept there. Yeah, back to the Tigers. I don't know what they're going to do. I'd be surprised if they leaned any of those players.
We should read out one of the emails we got from a Tigers supporter.
Let's do it.
Okay. Now, this is from Tiger Man, one of our long-time listeners. Tigers Man.
Sufferers.
Not just Tigers Man. Yeah, sufferers. It's like when I used to call myself a Panthers survivor. He says, hello, fellas. Sorry to ruin the start of the week. So I sent this earlier in the week, sorry. Sorry to start the week for you, Andrew, but it's a West Tigers question. With the club not going well so far, it looks like we could be 1 out of 5 wins in the coming weeks. I'm worried for the jobs of Madge and Brooks because Tigers fans can be fucking stupid and blame the results on the coach or Brooks because it's an easy excuse. I see this situation as why sack them if they can't be replaced by someone better. We won't find a better coach on the market at the moment. And is it Jack Madden or Jock Madden?
Jock Madden.
Jock Madden. I'm far away from my fucking laptop. Jock Madden isn't ready to be the 7 in a first grade club. So why do fans want them gone with no proper replacement? What's your take on these issues? Love Tigers, man. Kiss, kiss, kiss. He really wrote that, by the way. Kiss, kiss, kiss.
Good man. Look, I think the thing is, Tigers fans are starting to get a bit restless. 2005 was a long time ago. Fuck, 2010, 2011 was a long time ago for your last finals appearance.
Yeah.
The problem that the club's got when it comes to Michael Maguire and Luke Brooks is they're easy targets because one's your playmaker who all your points are supposed to come through, and the other one's your coach who's had great success at another club, so you kind of expect that here. I think the problem the West Tigers have got is got nothing to do with any one player, and it doesn't matter who the coach is. Mm-hmm. I think what happens is there's a perception amongst the entire NRL player base that the Tigers are not going to make the finals. So if I sign a contract there, I'm going there because I want the money, not because I want to play in the finals. And that's a mentality that I don't know how you fix that.
Yeah.
It's going to take basically one fluky season to make the finals with a ton of money in the salary cap and go, okay, we made the finals. We think you can take us one step further. And people go, oh, they can make the finals after all. Okay, you know what? I'll come along. Yeah, and that's kind of what's got to happen. But that is a horrible way to run a business on constantly waiting for a fluke.
It really is. And like the CEO and the board need to have a really good hard look at themselves because, you know, everything has changed except them. And this is a club like when Luke Brooks was a youngster and they gave him a nice contract and they basically put the thing out there that he's one of the players we're going to build around. They're not one step further forward from that day.
No, they've never built around him.
No, not even close. And it's not like you can look at them and say, well, you know, they brought through juniors. Like they didn't bring through any juniors around Brooks. You know, who are the marquee signings that they've brought through since then? Tamo might be the best one. Well, you know,
the juniors that came through with them were Tedesco, Moses. Woods was a bit before them, but they all sort of come from around the same sort of area. But Moses was never going to stay.
No.
And Woods had been talking about leaving for a while, and Tedesco he'd almost left once before when he almost signed a deal with Canberra before turning his back on it.
Yeah.
So all three of them had shown signs that they didn't want to hang around at the club.
But that's like, you go back now, that's a while now.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you can...
That's 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, and like, I know that there's the thing about, like, Pappenhausen used to be in there and Adokar used to be there and stuff, but it's not like they've brought somebody into first grade who you've been like, oh, this young junior player is actually really good and, you know, give him a go, especially in the backs. Like, the backs have been... No, they've literally brought no one really through as a centre, you know, or even a half. It's just crazy to me that they could be in they need that complete rebuild after all these years when they've been doing nothing but treading water in a rebuilding mode.
Well, that's the thing. They've always needed a rebuild. They've never done it properly, though. Because they kept getting so close to a finals berth, they kept thinking we're very close to the right mix. They didn't realise that what they were was the best of the worst.
Yeah.
And, you know, people may say there's not much difference in it, but I'd rather be the worst of the best than the best of the worst. It's one position on the ladder, but you know what? It gets you an extra week of football, and people see you as a team that's one of the top 8 sides instead of one of the other mob who you can beat more often than not.
Especially year after year after year.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We're talking about 17 of their 20 seasons. They have not made the finals.
It's crazy.
It's disgraceful. And as I said, I think that's part of the thing is that players, doesn't matter who they play for and what they're doing, they see the West Tigers as a place to go to get a check, not to go and win games. And they'll say all those things, we want to go and make them win and get the Tigers back into the finals. That's the shit you say to the media and to the fans to get them all excited. But at the end of the day, most of these players are probably signed just to get the paycheck. If they win, that's fantastic. Then, you know, not going to lie, every player loves winning. But they're less motivated by winning at the Tigers than they are at other clubs.
Yeah, and
that's just a perception. I'm not saying it's like 90-10, money over winning. It's more of a, 55-45 because players are mostly all about winning.
Yeah, and like that perception of clubs, like there's been times in Penrith where they have been a team where they've got their local juniors, they can't get a top of the line star to come to the club, but they'll get that next tier down, or they'll get players at the end of their career and things like that. And you were going to a club that it might have bad seasons, but they could have some solid seasons too. And like I remember a time where you would go to the Cowboys just for the money because you weren't going to win games.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. I mean, once upon a time you would go to the Broncos, on a cut price deal to try and win a premiership. There's all of these perceptions about clubs. Once upon a time you went to South Sydney because you weren't a first grader. It's the only place you could get a run. It just depends. And right now, I think you're right about the Tigers. You're not going there to play finals football. Like, James Tarmo doesn't have to worry about playing finals football. He's played plenty of it and won a premiership with the Cowboys. He is thinking about, what about the money? I'm at the end of my career. I want the money.
Yeah, exactly. Who can blame him? And that's the thing. This is the thing that's irritating, though, especially for Tigers fans, is that every single club in the NRL since 1998 has gone through one or two, crap seasons and had a complete rebuild and sorted their shit out. I mean, nothing has been worse than watching what the Knights went through for 3 years, but they're back playing finals football. The Tigers have never been as bad as what the Knights were in those 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
The Knights are playing finals football again.
And overtook them.
Yeah.
And went from a team that was...
Took them 3 years to do a proper rebuild, and then they're back playing finals footy. Tigers have shied away at doing a proper rebuild for a decade.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still just pottering around. And because, as we're starting to see it now, is that for years they were finishing ninth, and yes, it was a good joke. They were always finishing ninth. But because they're constantly treading water and not getting better, every other team is improving. And so we're starting to see, last year was the first sign of it, they start to fall further down the ladder and further down the ladder. And it makes you wonder, how far they got to fall? Do we have to go through and watch the Tigers win a wooden spoon before they start doing something? And yeah, the first thing they'll do, they'll sack the coach. And it's the dumbest thing you can do, because a new coach comes in, all the players have got off once again, you keep half the roster, and you don't improve. Doesn't matter who the coach is, this problem's always going to be there. So that's why they need to get a coach who's willing to come in, clean out as many overpaid players as possible, try and bring through some local talent so that you've got plenty of money spare in the cap to get some genuine stars there who want to make this team better. And I don't know how you do that. As I said, a lot of people want to get rid of Maguire now. This is his third year now. And, still no signs of improvement. There's, if anything, this year's starting to look like it's going to be worse. And so people are going to put that down as a fault of Maguire's. They still don't realise that we've still got a few players there from that Ivan Cleary signed.
Mm-hmm.
And they're on, Packer and Byron, they're on almost $2 million between them. That's a huge chunk of your salary cap still on two players who were signed ages ago. That's a halfback and a hooker right there. That's a few second rows and a prop or something like that. You can bring a few extra big name players to your side with $2 million.
And the thing is, if you sat Michael Maguire down and you said, all right, do you have the centers you want? And he'd be like, no, I can pick them up at the end of the year. All right, do you have the halves you want? No. Because no coach wants Brooks at halfback and the revolving, 5/8 door that they've got going at the West Tigers. Do you have the fullback you want? Look, they got a pretty handy fullback. I think he'd be pretty happy with that. I think he would dare say that he has got about as close to the forward pack that he could have hoped for in this situation, considering he can't buy anyone of really high quality and they don't really produce high quality forwards. So it's not like you look at this team and you go, oh yeah, this is a Michael Maguire team. And we've done that with other coaches. Like we were saying with Paul McGregor, that was his team. And that's a big, big thing when a coach has their team. You still look at this team, Michael Maguire, like it feels like they're 2 years away from it being his team.
Yeah, as I say, like the end of this year is when I think the worst of those contracts end. And so next year, as far as I'm concerned, next year is the year when it's fully his. And if there's no genuine improvement on that side, then you can start putting the onus of blame on him. The problem this club's always had is defensively.
Yeah.
And it's not getting better. And that's something that needs to fix. I recommend that they should go after Dean Pay and get him as defensive coach.
Yeah, he did a really good job at the Bulldogs with their defence. That you can still see the hangover from it. Like they still try their asses off.
Yes, but because he's not there, the defensive structures have broken down a little bit, and their leaking points are easier this year than what they did last year. I'd like to see someone like Dean Pay come to the West Tigers to be entirely defence coach and try and get some structures in there and make them harder to score against. That's the first part. You can't win games if your defence is shit.
Yeah.
So, the only coach we've ever had that said, we're going to focus on defence was Jason Taylor, and he made it worse. Rapidly worse.
Yeah.
He had one good season where it was looking pretty good, and then it just nosedived hard because he was spending too much time having personality games with bloody Robbie Farah.
And the other thing is too, like, I think one of the things that we're seeing at the moment is that some of the teams that have been really poor, then like you look the Broncos, they haven't started the season all that well, but they've improved from last year, which isn't difficult, right? The Bulldogs, similar situation. It's not hard to be better than they were last year, but there are parts of their team that you look at and you're like, oh, that's not too bad. The Cowboys are different. The Cowboys look terrible. The Dragons have a new coach. They're trying a few new things, a couple of new players. I think that some of the bad teams are improving, and that's the problem with that the Tigers have, is that because they're standing still, they're going to get overtaken by these teams the same way they did the Knights.
Exactly right.
And it wouldn't take much at all for the Tigers to look at the ladder and be like, holy crap, the Bulldogs are ahead of us, the Broncos are ahead of us. Like, it wouldn't take much at all.
No, that's right. But it does make you wonder how low they have to sink before the right people get moved on. And when I say the right people, I'm talking about people who aren't involved with coaching the team or being on the field, because there's too many people that have been in that boardroom at the club during this whole period that have been allowed to do what they do. People involved with recruitment, retention, the junior pathways. These are things that should be in tip-top condition, and there's no excuses why they'd be poor, especially with the nursery they've got, which we've spoken about before. They've got one of the largest, rugby league grassroots areas of any NRL team. Penrith is probably the only one that's bigger, and I suppose Brisbane. And to have brought through bugger all local juniors in the last decade, it's just not good enough. And so whoever's involved in charge of that needs improving massively. Recruitment is atrocious. Too often they just go, let's just go after whoever is off contract. And they won't go after players who they need while they're still on contract, like the Bulldogs did with Burton.
Yeah. What's
wrong with forward thinking? Go, you know what? He's going to be good. Let's go see if we can sign him for 2 years' time. There's none of that. There's no forward thinking. It's all, okay, this bloke's available, let's buy him. And go, where are we going to play him?
Yeah, that's the thing I don't get. Like, if they want to move on from Brooks, or even if they want to keep Brooks and move him to 5'8", you go after Adam Reynolds, because he's got the experience. He ticks all the boxes. He's premiership winner, got the experience, all that sort of thing. When he's on song, he's very, very good.
He'll win your games.
Yeah, he will. He'll win your games. Probably just below the echelon of the DCEs and I dare say Clearys of the world, but damn, he's a great player. I really like him. So why aren't they on the front foot there? You know, and it looked like they were getting on the front foot with Latrell Mitchell, and I know some people didn't want them to go after Latrell Mitchell, but I just felt like, when do they do that? Like, at what point do they do that? Because they don't do that. When have they ever done that? It's fucking going back to Terry Hill, who was old as the hills by the time they signed him up.
I know, but geez, I tell you what, I'll give him credit. Terry fucking ripped in. Like, he got moved from his beloved centre position into lock, and just kept ripping in. And that's the thing, that West Tigers team in 2000, they were a bunch of triers. So they busted their asses.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't great in attack. Their defence was pretty solid. And it actually took a illegal tackle by Marcus Bai on Jared McCracken.
It was Marcus Bai and Kearney, Stephen Kearney. Yeah.
Broke Jared McCracken's neck. And it crushed a lot of the Tigers players because they were on a roll. They were in second place on the ladder when that happened.
Mm.
Finished in 9th or 10th. Just missed the finals. Absolutely crushed that team. And, you know, Wayne Pearce left at the end of the year. Terry Lamb came in. Fucking hell.
That was bad.
Tim Sheens came along in 2003 or 4. And just set about getting juniors to the team.
Yeah.
So he wanted to put an end to all of the, second-rate players that the club was constantly being looking at and trying to sign, I guess, and sometimes picking up, and constantly battling away at the bottom of the ladder. He wanted to try and build a culture of, you know, local players and have people proud to wear the jumper, and, you know, they're happy to be representing the team because it's who they played for as kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you get a winning culture. Penrith's seeing that now. Problem that Sheens had is he moved away from that as he got older.
Yeah.
And he kept trying to use a game plan that worked in 2005, and the rules changed the following year to be more forward-oriented and big forward-oriented, and the Tigers still kept persisting with this smaller mobile pack, and it just didn't work.
Mm.
Then you got all the coaching bloody merry-go-rounds and all the fucking palaver that went on with that, and the lack of leadership from club boards when all that drama went on between Potter and Farah, which was actually, there wasn't much drama there. It would have been easier if Grant Meyer, who was the boss at the time, had come out and just said, look, we've had a word with both these two guys. It's all under the water, under the bridge. It's happened. They sorted it out many years ago. Everything's all good now. Let's move on. But no, he didn't. And Farah ended up having to do all of that bloody stuff for the club instead.
Yeah, it was crazy. So guts of the CEO to let the captain sort it out.
Yeah, he just threw him under the bus.
Yeah.
And made Farah look like a dickhead. Farah was doing whatever was in the best interest of the club. And so, you know, it's been a fucking debacle ever since. Then you got the whole Jason Taylor fucking experiment. That was just a fucking debacle, that was. I don't know why. You know, at a time when they needed to have genuine leadership and an actual experienced coach, they went after the most inexperienced coach there was out there with no real strong, reliable track record as a head coach other than one reasonable season with South.
Mm.
And the way he left South should have been the alarm bell that they didn't need.
Yeah, yeah.
People don't know about how he left South. Just ask David Kidwell.
I think it was a different player. Huh?
Was it a different player? I thought it was David Kidwell.
Man, who was it? I can see the dude's face. Oh man, I can't remember his name. Damn it. Anyway, yeah.
I thought it was one of those big forwards they had who they were mean as hell.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, I'll put it this way. I would rather fight David Kidwell than the other guy.
End up with Taylor's having the worst broken nose of his entire career. It didn't even happen on a field. Sprayed all over his face.
But to be fair, right, apart from everything you've just mentioned, everything else is good, right?
Yeah, I think the last time it was good was in the mid-40s. Because that was when Balmain played West in the grand final.
Yeah.
That's when the merged team was the best two teams in the competition. There's a culture thing. I don't know how to get around it. Maybe they need to do something like Canberra did and go after people who are playing in the Super League. I don't know. Get people uninvolved in the NRL. I don't know how you get around it. It's got me beat. But I just think there's a culture and a mentality within players that, around the entire NRL that just go, yeah, Tigers ain't going to win anything. That's why the Tigers get linked to anyone and hardly sign them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They want to win.
Yeah. Like if you're sitting down with Latrell Mitchell and you say you're gonna get close to $1 million and you can do it at Souths or you can do it at the West Tigers, you have to say to him at that point, dude, you're an idiot if you don't take the Souths offer over the West Tigers offer, because Souths will be in the finals, Souths will attract talent, and you just go through it, and that's a real bad position for a club to be in, and it's on the board and the CEO and who they employ to make that happen, and what they put in place, and just not allowing failure. Like, at some point, how do you allow failure year after year after year? How's the board not drag the CEO in and say, we haven't made the finals in so long, you're fired?
Yeah. There's too many people within the club. I'm not talking about fans. I'm talking about people within the club who are help running the club, who accept mediocrity because they've got a cushy job or something like that. I don't know. But there's a culture within the people who work at the club. I'm not talking about players, and I'm not talking about the coaches, because they come and go all the time and the results still stay the same. There's something else that's going on there, and it's about time to start looking at what else there is that's going wrong at the club, because if they go and get rid of Brooks, they go and get rid of Maguire, then all they're doing is that old adage, if you keep doing the same thing all the time, expecting to get different results, you're fucking insane.
Exactly. Anyway, we have another email here. It's from our very good friend. Oh, by the way, he wants me to explain why I tipped the Storm in the last game, so I'll do that after this email. It's from, and I'm going to say his name how I think it is. It's Andy Marzalek. That's how I would say it.
I think I pronounced it Marjolais last time.
Yes. Now
it sounds like it should have a J and a T in it.
Now he says, lads, Marzalek as Marjolais. Well, that's a new one I've never heard, and I've heard plenty. I don't think I'll worry about setting you straight on the pronunciation. I think I'll leave it to you guys to come up with something new each time you go through the tipping ladder.
Trust me, we will.
Yeah. I reckon I've got it, Marzalek. That's how I would say it anyway. Yeah. What, were you going to say something?
I was going to say, I'll refuse to say it that way then. I'll let you have that one.
Okay. As for the tipping, I swore I wouldn't pick my team, the Broncos, until they had 3 to 4 wins. But then I look at the draw this week and I see them up against the Dogs. And I don't think it matters who I pick. I feel I'll be throwing away a point. Might have to pick Brisbane. Then watch on as they play the Bulldogs into form like they did with Parramatta and the Titans. Which leads me to a question. Do either of you have any hard and fast rules you stick to when it comes to tipping? Keep up the good work, Andy. P.S. I'm loving Benji's work at South, one of my favourite players.
Yeah, Benji is bloody good at South. Rules for tipping. See, I do have a few, but because I'm so shit at tipping, I don't think they're worthwhile sharing because they'll just make you worse.
What are they?
Basically, I've got a set list in my head of teams that I despise seeing win. Mm-hmm. And the ones that I despise the most are the teams I will rarely ever pick.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who are they?
I don't want to give away all my secrets.
Ah, damn it.
Yeah.
I
As I
don't mind
said,
telling her.
there's a reason why I'm so shit at tipping.
All right.
Some of those teams are quite good.
I,
But
I,
last year was one of my better ones because,
yeah.
Brisbane was one of those teams.
Okay.
I like watching them lose.
I tell you some of the rules I have, right?
Yeah.
I generally just go by feel. Like, if I go into games and I'm like, oh, I got a feeling about this team or that team, I normally don't look at home field advantage. I don't care about that. If it's a close game, every so often I'll go home field, and that will be something like, say, the Warriors have to travel up to North Queensland. And if it's a game that I can't really split the teams, I'll think, well, North Queensland at home, it'll be hot up there. It's a long travel from normally Auckland up to North Queensland. So I'll do that sort of thing. But I don't really have any. Oh, the only other one is you've got to convince me to tip against the Storm. Like, it's got to be I probably tip the Storm 98% of the time, just because I think they're going to win most of the games. And if you have that sort of rule in place, you're going to win most of your tips.
Well, that's true.
I tipped them this weekend because for two reasons. Number one, I don't like the Panthers' attack at the moment. Number two, how many times do we see the Storm start a season 1 win, 2 losses?
Well, the last time was 2008.
There you go. And then number three, they're just a great club, and I feel as though they're the marker that everyone else has to hit. And even though the Panthers won last night, I've got no problems having tipped a Storm. I actually had somebody say that I was a traitor. Someone I know said I was a traitor to my team. I was like, no, I'm not a traitor. I'm just a fucking expert. And then they lost.
That's pretty. So the one thing I do try and look for, if I'm being picky, is form line. Okay. So a classic, obvious example, is whenever the Tigers are playing the Roosters.
Mm-hmm.
Tigers have won 2 of their last 20 or 21 games against the Roosters.
Mm-hmm.
And more often than not, when they have played the Roosters, in that time, they've been flogged. And so it doesn't matter to me what the form is of either of those two sides. I'm pretty confident every time the Tigers come up against the Roosters, Roosters will win.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I pick them or not, another thing. But, that's the sort of thing that happens there. And so that sort of mindset of trying to find a form line somewhere that might be somewhat helpful to determining who's going to win the game is something I've been looking at the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm starting to look at, it's what's brought me to start looking at more obscure stats that actually don't mean anything. But that's a good thing about this, because I've gone from looking for this stuff to try and improve my tipping. And what I've ended up doing was finding unique things to make tweets about, which people look at and go, oh, that's interesting. You're going, it's interesting, but it's not exactly helpful either. So, classic one is what I did yesterday for the Bulldogs-Broncos game.
Yeah.
Okay, the Bulldogs have scored 0 points in their last 169 minutes of footy played on a Saturday.
Oh, jeez.
Their last win on a Saturday was round 25, 2019 versus Brisbane. Brisbane's last win on a Saturday was in round 9, 2020 against Canterbury, and they haven't won a single NRL game since.
Wow. That's wow. And how do you draw a line through that? Like, that's just mind exploding stuff. I tipped the Broncos.
Likewise. And I think it's because the one thing that separated those two teams last year when they played is you look at it and go, yeah, you know what, the Bulldogs' attack is pretty poor, but so was Brisbane's. Mm-hmm. But the Bulldogs' defence was markedly better than Brisbane's.
Yeah.
This year, the Broncos' attack is a little bit better. Their defence is a little bit better. The Bulldogs' attack is about the same, and their defence has got worse. So for me, the Bulldogs have become a worse team after just looking at the 2 games that have been played so far compared to Brisbane. And so I went with Brisbane on that basis.
Mine is more touchy-feely, I think, than your method. So I just feel like the Broncos are, as you say, a little bit better in attack and defence. I like their attacking structure a whole lot more than I did last year. The Bulldogs, I think, there's some good players in that team, but there's still not enough good players in that team. And I just feel like the Broncos look like a better overall team. Now, it could be wrong. They could lose this game. Either side could lose it by 40. Like, that's just the way it is. But I just feel as though the Broncos are due. And that sort of sticks with me a little bit.
You think the Broncos are more due than the Bulldogs?
Yeah, I do.
Oh. I, for one, don't mind if the Broncos lose again.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind either way. It's just how I look at tipping a game like that.
I think the Bulldogs have been through enough losses and enough poor seasons, whereas the Broncos have only had one bad season, let's be honest. Mm. And, we could do with another one.
I'll tell you an unwritten rule I guess I have. You get a team like the Cowboys, and I despise them in terms of like my tipping. That's all I'm talking about, tipping. In terms of like, it doesn't matter who they come up against. I'm not tipping the Cowboys. I've got this theory that everyone has a team who, no matter what, they feel like they just can't pick them. Like every time you pick them to win, they lose, and every time you tip against them, they win. Do you have one? Yeah, the Warriors.
The Warriors.
If I when I start thinking about the Warriors games, I will stuff the tip up. When I start going like, ooh, you know what, the Warriors, they're having a bit of good form, their defense. You know what, I think that they're also one of those teams that the Storm struggle against. I'm going to tip the Warriors against the Storm, and then the Storm will flog the ever-loving shit out of them. And I'll be like, oh, damn it. But then it'll be like, oh, Manly, they're not going to lose to the Warriors. Warriors are fucking in a motel somewhere on the Central Coast, and then Manly lose to them. And so anytime I start thinking about how the Warriors will go in my tipping, I will stuff it up. So I just kind of have to just chuck the tip up really quick and move on.
See, for me, it was always Canberra.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because, see, during the 90s, and then again in more recent times, Canberra's attack was just on fire. No one could get near them. And so part of my mind still thinks that, their attack's still pretty good. I keep going with that. Just like Phil Gould still keeps thinking that the West Tigers have the best attack in the... No, Phil, that stopped in 2010. How are you still going on about that? It's a decade ago, man. Fucking move on.
It is weird when you've got to realise something's changed in a team, though. Like when you've got an idea of what a team is, and then you've got to go like, oh no, that's over. Like I can't hold on to that. Yes.
We were going to do an episode about things like that.
We were. Should we hold it on to that? Because that's a good idea.
I don't know. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
We might save that up.
Yeah, let's save it.
We'll put that one in the vault.
Yeah.
Let's not ruin it now. We'll give you all a bit of a tease.
But what are any other tip and strategies you have?
No, that's pretty much it. I try and just look at form, head-to-head form, not so much current season form.
Mm-hmm. Yes, see, that's different for me too. I look at overall season form.
This year I'm also trying to convince myself not to pick the Tigers every week.
Yeah.
So it's worked out pretty well so far.
So do you have problems tipping against the Tigers?
Yeah, I tend not to do it.
Okay. I have zero problem tipping against the Panthers. No problem at all. I'll do it whenever I feel like it.
I could probably count on one hand the number of times I've tipped against the Tigers.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a problem.
Yeah. Hence why I'm so crap at footy tipping. But this year, I tipped against them for both rounds so far.
Okay.
And I didn't want to risk it this week, so I tipped them this week.
Oh, shit.
We'll see how we go.
Trying to think of any other weird ones that are like any weird sort of non-written rules. I can't think of any others. I really can't think of any others.
Which animal would kill? Which mascot would kill the other one?
That's what remember me and Julie did whole episodes of that.
That's right. Because I think that's what my daughter uses. Or which animal she likes more.
You should have signed her up for our tipping competition on the NRL website and just put in her tips for which animal she likes better. That would have been.
She probably think about it now.
Yeah.
And probably still kick all our asses. She'd towel us up.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go. Any more emails?
No, that's it. That's all of the ones I can find. We have some go on the website, some go to my personal email. So if I've missed your one, it's probably just got lost. So the best way to do it is to go to fergonfreak.com, go to the contact part and send an email through that. That's easily the best way to do it. Absolutely.
Fully agree. I suppose that pretty much does this episode, doesn't it?
Yeah, we did really well. We're going to do another episode. Should we do one? We can do one Sunday.
Yeah, we can do one whenever.
Yeah, Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah,
maybe both. We'll see. We'll see how we do it.
Try and get a history one out too somewhere.
That'd be cool. It's Sunday, pretty big day for the podcast. It's a bit of a milestone.
Yes. I wonder if anyone knows what that might be.
Yeah. If you know what the milestone is, tweet it to us.
Exactly. And we'll read it out. I dare say we'll get some interesting responses now.
Yeah, I realised I just fucked up.
It's all about the algorithms.
Yeah. You know what? I really enjoyed tweeting today. I was talking about the football and everyone was just positive and looking forward to the footy, and it was just really nice to be on Twitter and things be positive because, man, you look at the trending topics on Twitter and it's just hate-filled shit fest.
Yeah, although in good news, Evan Peters is set to play serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer in a Netflix series.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Also, scientists kept winding in space for a year. Here's what happened. I dare say nothing.
Yeah, what would happen to nothing? It's in a bottle, in a cork.
Nothing would happen.
Nothing.
We had a little bit of extra news. You said there was some talk about Andrew Fafita.
Oh, yeah, the Dragons apparently are going after Andrew Fafita, which, I think if they could get him for this year, wouldn't be too bad for them.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's something I'd be looking at long term, especially when you look at some of the older players they recruited at the Dragons. It's a little bit of a worrying sign. I would rather the Dragons be looking to get younger, not older.
Yeah, I don't know. It sounds like a Dragon signing, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. But like if it's for this year, like if he's playing for them from next weekend, if for this year, I like it. But long term, or getting him next year. Andrew Fafita, I'd say he kind of feels like a West Tiger, doesn't he?
Well, probably.
Yeah. Imagine you get rid of Packer and they signed Andrew Fafita to a 3-year deal. Who would you kill? Who would you murder?
Right now, I prefer Fafita over Packer, but that's not saying much. So,
okay.
Just read this article.
I don't know why I was trying to get you to tell me someone you'd murder on a podcast. What the fuck am I thinking? Sorry.
Let's keep it safe. I could. No. Just look at this article. It's saying that the Tigers are looking at signing Jackson Hastings to be a ball-playing lock.
Oh shit. Oh, boy.
Wow. That's
rough.
That's just no.
Isn't he like he's pretty slight for a halfback.
I'm going to be honest. I'm sorry, Jackson, but I reckon I've probably had bigger shits than him.
Yeah.
He's not the size of a ball playing lock.
No.
Not in the NRL.
Can you imagine you Jackson Hastings and you're at Wigan and you're like, listen, Okay, I'll break my contract here at Wigan, and they say, cool, because we're thinking about having you as a ball-playing lock. And you're like, God, this contract, it's rock solid. I don't know whether I can break this.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to give you $1 million a year going 4-4-2. I don't know. Have you seen how good the pound's doing right now? I don't know. Plus, there's a whole COVID thing. I don't think I can get out of England at the moment.
I'm trapped here, dude.
Can we wait like 2 or 3 years so I can get into some local cuisine and get up to the right size?
Do you reckon if Jackson Hastings does come back to the NRL, that he will play a single game for England ever again?
Never.
Yeah, I agree.
Never again.
They'll move on to the next thing. It'll be some. I feel like the England team will look towards some young halfback at a club who's actually not any good, but he's just young and he's English.
Yeah. So if the Tigers had, seriously, they had no other options at 5'8", I'm all for him signing Jackson Hastings.
Mm-hmm.
He's an improvement on Moses and Bai. He's no worse than Adam Dewey.
Mm-hmm.
Or Luke Brooks for that matter. So I'd be fine. If it meant that we got rid of some of those surplus, if we got rid of Mbai and Brooks and signed Hastings, that's an improvement because you've freed up a lot of salary cap space and you've still got yourself a half no worse than ones you already had.
Yeah.
But you need to use the money that you've saved to buy a halfback to go next to him.
Yes.
Drop Lolua and move Dewey to the centres. You're fixed. You're moving in the right direction there. You've got a decent starting 17, a few decent quality reserves after that, and then just seriously go and start working on junior development from your local area and try and get some local talent into the side.
Yeah.
You
know who I think will become available soon is Lachlan Lewis.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind him. I think that in the right situation, he'd be a really good player. He's got some injury problems, which he would need to get through those to be a really good contributor to a team. But I like his competitiveness, and I think that he can be a little bit of an Adam Reynolds sort of player as a 5'8", because he's in everything. He's in absolutely everything. So yeah, I think he would be available, I think, for the right price.
Yeah, he wouldn't be too bad. I think we saw the best of him when he was, opposite Foran and he had that experienced head next to him.
Mm-hmm.
When Foran went away, he seemed to play a lot more expansive footy a lot of the times at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Whereas Foran was able to really be and sort of give him the ball when he wanted him to do something. So the problem I've got there is Tigers don't have an experienced half to go alongside him.
True. Where Lachlan Lewis would be really good would be Manly alongside DCE.
Yeah, he'd be brilliant there.
Mm.
He's a little bit of X factor in the halves too.
Mm-hmm.
That would go well there.
It'd be interesting if and for some reason I feel like the Cowboys are going to get Adam Reynolds, and I don't know why. It's based on nothing. It's just a hunch. But if they got Adam Reynolds and they got Lachlan Lewis, that'd be pretty handy halves pairing.
Yeah, that's a definite upgrade in both ways.
Yeah.
Michael Ennis has suggested that Joey Lalia needs to control his temper, and that he reckons that Lolua might only have a month to save his career.
Wow.
And Lolua responded by telling Ennis to stop talking shit.
Yeah.
And he called James Hooper a baldy.
I'm on his side completely. I agree with him 100%.
He's he's doing all the right things in the media, Lolua.
That reminds me, I saw there was a tweet that was sent to me, and it was a tweet that what's that fucking person that does the sports bet adverts on Channel 9? I think it's before Channel 9 games.
Okay, I don't watch Channel 9.
He was your former fullback at the West Tigers.
Oh, Joel Kane.
Joel Kane, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, Sugar.
Yeah, he put out a tweet, and here it is, sent to me by the Duke, who's a Chooks fan, unfortunately. So he said, it was the Telegraph put out an article, and it said, as the 17th NRL team appears to be a fait accompli, a ninth weekly game for broadcasters remains an awfully enticing prospect, which means they'd bring in two teams, not just one. Right?
Yeah.
So Joel Kane tweets this out. One NFL team to 10 million people in America, right?
Mm.
Guess he's talking about population. This would be one NRL team per 1.7 million people, and that includes New Zealand as well, in Australia and New Zealand. Then he says, move to 2 tiers of 10 to 12 teams, ? Promotion and relegation, anyone, ? And then he says, play everyone twice. Less games for players, more games for broadcasters. Tick, tick, tick. And the Duke sent it to me and asked what my thoughts were. And I said, I think this is an utterly ridiculous idea. What do you think, Andrew?
Promotion and relegation is the single most stupidest concept I've seen in any sport anywhere.
Yes.
And in rugby league, especially in English rugby league where the money's just not there, it's deadly to clubs.
Yeah.
It sinks clubs. And not only does it start sinking, not only does it sink clubs, it's starting to sink the game. It's a horrible, horrible concept. As far as, this whole argument of, teams in the lower competitions don't have anything to play for. If they were good enough, they'd be in the top competition anyway.
Yeah. It doesn't even work in soccer. Let's face it.
It doesn't. It doesn't. You look at the teams that are constantly on the cusp, up and down, up and down. And, it's so expensive staying in the Premier League, and you go back down to the next division down, and now all of a sudden you're one of the top teams there because, you've had all that exposure in the Premier League, so you've got a bit of extra coin in the kitty. And so they just stay hanging around.
Yeah.
Being one of the bottom 3 in the Premier League or being one of the top 3 in second division. It just constantly happens all the time. Happens the same time in rugby league. League goes up, league goes down. League goes up, league goes down.
I know.
Who is this benefiting?
And I remember I would talk to Poms about this, and they'd say, if you take away the dream of a local club that they can't rise through the ladders and become a Super League team, then why would they exist? What's the whole point of them being around? And I used to think, what fucking planet are you on if you think your basically local A-grade side is somehow one day going to be playing Wigan in Super League and holding their own against them? It makes no sense. And who has that desire? I've never thought to myself, you know what? The St. Mary Saints, if they were one day playing in the NRL, it'd just be stupid.
Not even Newtown Jets fans, or the club are sitting there thinking, one day we'll be back in the NRL.
Mm.
And then, it's just absurd. If these teams want to be in the top division, then why not just have one big, massive top division like they used to have?
Yeah.
It's quit all this other bullshit. And then you can just have all the teams there and, it's not going to make any difference to the current game.
So you don't think Joel Kane's ideas hold any merit?
It's absurd.
Yeah.
It's insanely stupid.
Yeah.
Because the first thing that's going to happen, is if you start bringing in all of these extra divisions and stuff, first thing that's going to happen is people are going to say, "Oh, my team got grouped in with the Melbourne Storm and blah 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 blah. We're going to get flogged and be crap all the time."
But I think the way he wanted it to have was you've got promotion and relegation. Who wants to be in that second tier of teams, really?
Well, that's the thing, though, is if you're in that second tier, you're not getting the exposure. You're immediately considered as one of the shittier teams.
Mm-hmm.
Sponsors are harder to get. Players are harder to get. I dare say after a while there'll be a separation between the top division and the second one, just like we've got in England, and therefore money is harder to get for the teams in the second division, and you start killing teams.
I like putting out some far ideas every so often on the podcast. And Joel Kane does the same thing on his Twitter feed. But I've got to say, some of the ideas I've seen him put out there are pretty bad.
Yeah, I can never, ever talk positively about promotion and relegation because I've seen just in basic record keeping how much damage it's done to the game in England.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they fiddled around with it for a while. It wasn't until the 70s, 73, I think. They went from having all the teams playing in one big competition to having divisions. You think, when was the last time they beat Australia in Ashes series? Oh, it's around the same time. When was the last time they won a World Cup? Oh, yeah, it's around the same time. I don't think a lot of this is a coincidence.
You know, we should do an episode in the next week or two where it's just a pommy bashing episode. I know you like those episodes.
Yeah, I know someone who likes them more than I do.
Really?
Yeah. We should get him on.
He sounds fucking awesome.
We should get him on.
Anyway, we should wrap this up. We must be going for like 2 hours or something by now.
No, we haven't done that yet.
Okay.
You can if you want.
No, it's all good. We got more content to put out. We got more content than any other podcast in the rugby league sphere.
Yeah, we're just trying not to do it all at once.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to blow your wad, which is my favourite poker term.
Yes. What a cash. You don't do it all on the first hand.
No.
All right, so
it'd be like ejaculating early.
Just in case people weren't clear. For more of that content, check us out on Twitter and Instagram at FergoFreakPod. We're on LinkedIn, YouTube, MySpace, Facebook. I think that's all of them.
Yep.
So check us out on all of those. Make sure you go to your podcast listening app, give us a 5-star rating, and give us a review. We'll read them out on the podcast and pop them up on the website as well. As Freaky said, you can go to our website to send an email through to us, and we'll read them out like we did just with these two tonight. And also, and most importantly, big thanks to Manscaped. Make sure you head over there, buy. I was going to say anything. Yeah, just buy everything. Get 20% off.
Yeah.
Whenever you use our code NRL.
You save 20%. That's basically like us giving you free money.
Yeah. And hairless balls.
Yeah, well, I mean, what more do you really need in life?
We won't personally come over and do it, you know.
No.
We'll give you that bit of privacy, but you know, we're doing everything but. So, I suppose that pretty much wraps it up.
Yeah, thank you to everyone for listening, and enjoy the footy.
Absolutely. We'll catch us all in a few days' time.